Welcome back, Coinology. Imagine holding something so small, so ordinary, that you've probably ignored it your entire life. A single 1-cent coin. A penny. Something people drop on the street, toss into jars, or leave behind at cash counters without a second thought. Now imagine that exact same 1-cent coin becoming the center of one of the most talked about mysteries in modern American coin collecting. A coin dated 1992. A year that most people remember for pop culture, politics, or sports, but never for pennies. And yet, within the world of numismatics, the 1992 1-cent coin has quietly built a reputation that refuses to fade. A reputation tied to rarity, to minting secrets, to microscopic details, and to whispered stories of coins worth not thousands, not millions, but values that collectors dream about when they first enter the hobby. The 1992 1-cent coin belongs to the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, a design that had already been in circulation for decades by that point. To the untrained eye, it looks almost identical to pennies from the late 1980s or early 1990s. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait faces right on the obverse, calm and dignified, just as it had since 1909. The reverse still carries the Lincoln Memorial, that iconic building in Washington, D.C., with its strong pillars and balanced symmetry. Nothing about it screams rare or valuable at first glance. And that is exactly what makes this coin so dangerous to overlook. The standard weight of a 1992 1-cent coin is approximately 2.5 grams. This is because, by 1982, the U.S. Mint had transitioned from the older bronze alloy to a copper-plated zinc composition. That means the core of the coin is zinc, while the outer layer is thin copper, giving it that familiar reddish-brown color. The diameter is about 19.05 millimeters, and the thickness is roughly 1.52 millimeters. These measurements matter, because in the world of rare coins, even a tiny deviation in weight or metal composition can mean the difference between a common coin and a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The coin symbol for the 1-cent piece is simple, yet historically powerful. Often abbreviated as cent or referred to simply as 1C, the penny represents the smallest unit of U.S. currency. But historically, the penny has carried enormous symbolic weight. It represents accessibility, daily commerce, and the idea that even the smallest denomination has value. For collectors, that symbolism goes even deeper, because some of the most expensive coins ever sold are pennies. And that reality alone forces people to take a second look at a year like 1992. In 1992, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies across different mint locations, including Philadelphia and Denver. On paper, that should make the coin extremely common. And most of them are. The average circulated 1992 penny you might find in pocket change is worth exactly 1 cent. Maybe 2 or 3 cents if it's shiny and uncirculated. But the story does not end there. Because hidden among these mass-produced coins are rare varieties, mint errors, and transitional anomalies that completely rewrite the value equation. Collectors know that some of the most valuable modern pennies are not valuable because of age, but because of mistakes. Mistakes that occurred for a brief moment during production. Mistakes that were never supposed to leave the mint. In 1992, the minting process involved multiple dies, hubs, and quality control steps. If even one of those steps went wrong, it could create a coin that defies expectations. A doubled design. A missing detail. An incorrect die pairing. Or even a coin struck using a design element that technically should not exist for that year. This is where the legend of the 1992 penny truly begins to take shape. Within collector circles, there has long been discussion about extremely rare transitional pieces and proof-style anomalies connected to the early 1990s. Some collectors believe that a handful of 1992 pennies exist with characteristics that place them in an entirely different category from standard circulation strikes. Coins that were never officially announced. Coins that may have slipped out quietly, unnoticed for years. The design itself becomes crucial at this point. On the reverse of a normal 1992 penny, the Lincoln Memorial shows clear steps and pillars, and if you look closely between the central columns, you can see a tiny seated statue of Abraham Lincoln. This level of detail is important because rare varieties often involve subtle changes in spacing, shape, or thickness of letters and structures. The words United States of America arch across the top of the reverse, while 1 cent appears boldly at the bottom. E pluribus unum sits above the memorial. Every letter, every gap, every alignment detail matters. On the obverse, Lincoln's portrait includes inscriptions like "In God We Trust" along the top, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1992 to the right. Depending on the mint, there may be no mint mark or a small d below the date. That tiny letter, or the absence of it, can completely change the conversation. Because mint marks tell us where the coin was struck, and certain mints are historically linked to specific varieties and errors, the history behind the Lincoln cent adds emotional weight to this discussion. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. That alone made it revolutionary. By 1992, Lincoln had been on the penny for over 80 years, making him one of the most enduring figures in American coinage. This continuity is part of why collectors pay such close attention to even the smallest changes or anomalies. When a design remains consistent for decades, any deviation becomes instantly noticeable to trained eyes. Now, when people hear claims of a 1992 1-cent coin being associated with figures like $260 million, it's important to understand what that really represents in the collector world. Such numbers are not tied to ordinary circulation coins. They are tied to hypothetical, ultra-unique scenarios, coins that would combine extreme rarity, historical significance, perfect preservation, and unprecedented characteristics. Coins that, if proven and authenticated, would rewrite record books and become museum-level artifacts. These values live in the realm of possibility discussions, legendary finds, and collector speculation, not everyday pocket change. But here's the truth that keeps collectors searching: history has shown, again and again, that unbelievable discoveries do happen. Pennies pulled from circulation have sold for hundreds of thousands, even millions, because they were struck on the wrong metal, or used the wrong die, or belonged to a transitional moment the mint never officially recorded. And every time one of those stories breaks, it sends shockwaves through the hobby and reignites interest in overlooked years like 1992. Market value for a typical 1992 penny remains low, but for rare varieties, condition is everything. An uncirculated coin graded at the highest levels can command significant premiums compared to circulated examples. Coins with strong luster, sharp strikes, and no visible wear are always more desirable. Add an authenticated error or rare variety, and the value curve changes dramatically. That's why collectors weigh their coins, inspect them under magnification, and compare them to known reference images. The idea that a simple penny could change someone's life is not fantasy, it's a documented reality in numismatic history. And that idea is exactly what keeps people searching through rolls, jars, and inherited collections. The 1992 1-cent coin sits right in that sweet spot, modern enough to still appear in circulation, old enough to have developed legends, and common enough to hide something extraordinary in plain sight. And as this story continues, the deeper we go into specific varieties, rumored anomalies, collector discoveries, and the psychology of why people are willing to pay staggering amounts for a single cent, the more you begin to understand why this coin refuses to be ignored. And once that curiosity is awakened, once someone realizes that a tiny copper-colored disc dated 1992 could possibly be more than spare change, the way they look at pennies forever changes. Suddenly, every detail matters. The feel of the coin between the fingers. The sound it makes when dropped on a table. The color, the shine, the sharpness of Lincoln's jawline, the clarity of the letters. For serious collectors, this is where the hunt truly begins. Because the 1992 1-cent coin is not about what is obvious, but about what is hidden. One of the first things experienced collectors do with a 1992 penny is examine its surface under magnification. Not just a quick glance, but a slow, deliberate inspection. They look for doubling in the letters, especially in God We Trust and Liberty. They examine the date, checking whether the numbers show signs of doubling, thickness, or unusual spacing. Doubling can occur when the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during its creation, resulting in a doubled image that appears almost like a shadow. To an untrained eye, it might look like wear or damage. To a trained eye, it can signal something extraordinary. Then comes the inspection of the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial is a playground of details. The columns must be counted. The steps must be observed. The spacing between letters in America and 1 cent must be compared to known standards. Some varieties in U.S. coinage history are defined by something as small as the distance between two letters, or the shape of a single serif. This might sound obsessive, but it is precisely this level of obsession that has uncovered some of the rarest coins ever known. Weight testing is another critical step. A normal 1992 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams, give or take a small tolerance. But if a coin weighs significantly more or less, it raises immediate questions. Could it have been struck on the wrong planchet? Could it be a leftover bronze blank from an earlier era? Could it be an experimental or transitional piece that slipped through? History has proven that such mistakes do happen, and when they do, they create legends. The composition of the coin also plays a massive role in its potential value. By 1992, pennies were supposed to be copper-plated zinc. But imagine discovering a 1992 penny struck on a solid bronze planchet, something that technically should not exist. That kind of anomaly would instantly attract worldwide attention. It would be sent to professional grading services, examined by metallurgical experts, and debated endlessly within the numismatic community. If authenticated, it would not just be valuable, it would be historic. The mint mark, or lack thereof, continues to fuel speculation. Philadelphia minted pennies typically have no mint mark, while Denver coins carry a small d. Each mint has its own production quirks, die usage patterns, and quality control differences. Certain varieties are known to exist only from specific mints. That's why a 1992 penny from Philadelphia might be examined differently than one from Denver, even if they appear identical at first glance. Beyond physical characteristics, there is also the story of survival. Coins do not exist in a vacuum. They are handled, spent, dropped, scratched, cleaned, and sometimes damaged beyond recognition. Finding a high-grade 1992 penny today, especially one with full original luster and no wear, is far more difficult than most people realize. Millions were made, yes, but millions were also destroyed by circulation. Time is ruthless to coins, and condition scarcity is very real. This is why professional grading becomes such an important part of the conversation. A 1992 penny sent to a grading service is examined, authenticated, and assigned a grade based on its condition. That grade can dramatically affect value. The difference between a coin graded MS65 and one graded MS69 can be enormous, even if they look similar to the naked eye. At the very top of the grading scale, perfection becomes incredibly rare, and prices can skyrocket. The psychology of the market also cannot be ignored. Coin values are not determined by metal alone. They are driven by demand, story, rarity, and belief. When collectors believe a coin is special, when it has a compelling narrative behind it, demand increases. And when demand increases for something that is genuinely rare, prices can reach levels that seem unbelievable to outsiders. Stories circulate within the collecting world of people who unknowingly spent rare pennies, only to later discover what they had let go. These stories add fuel to the fire. They keep the legend alive. They encourage others to search. The 1992 penny lives within this culture of hope and possibility. It represents the idea that history is still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be recognized. The idea of extreme values, like hundreds of millions of dollars, sits at the outer edge of this world. These figures represent theoretical maximums. What could happen if a truly unique, never-before-seen 1992 penny surfaced, verified beyond doubt, and captured global attention? Such a coin would not just be a collectible, it would be a cultural artifact. Museums would want it. Wealthy collectors would compete for it. Media outlets would cover it. Its value would no longer be about cents or dollars, but about legacy, and even if such a coin never appears, the chase itself has value. The act of searching teaches patience, observation, and respect for history. It connects people to the past in a tangible way. Every penny tells a story, even if that story is simply about everyday life in America during the early 1990s. The 1992 penny circulated through hands during a time of change, uncertainty, and cultural shifts. It witnessed moments we can only imagine. As collectors dig deeper, they often discover that the true reward is knowledge. Learning how coins are made. Understanding dies, hubs, planchets, and strikes. Recognizing how tiny errors can have massive consequences. The 1992 1-cent coin becomes a classroom, a mystery, and a symbol all at once, and the deeper you go, the harder it becomes to stop. Because once you realize that even a single cent can carry infinite possibility, you start to wonder what else you've overlooked. And that question lingers, quietly, every time a penny passes through your hands. As the journey continues, the focus naturally shifts from speculation to discipline, because serious collectors know that emotion alone cannot uncover the truth behind a coin like the 1992 1-cent. Passion starts the hunt, but methodical study sustains it. This is where notebooks appear, where magnifying lamps stay switched on for hours, and where rolls of pennies are slowly opened one by one, each coin handled with the same care as if it might be the 1.1 of the most fascinating aspects of the 1992 penny is how it sits at the crossroads of old and new within U.S. coinage. The technology used by the mint in the early 1990s was far more advanced than in earlier decades, yet it was not flawless. Dies were still hand-polished, planchets were still fed mechanically, and human oversight was still part of the process. Every one of those steps introduced the possibility of variation. And variation is the lifeblood of rarity. Collectors begin comparing known examples side by side. A normal 1992 penny becomes a reference point. Then another coin is placed next to it, and suddenly something feels off. The letters look thicker. The spacing feels tighter. The memorial looks sharper or strangely flat. These moments are subtle, almost intuitive, but they are often the first clues that something unusual may be present. This is how discoveries are born, not from certainty, but from curiosity. Lighting plays a critical role in this process. Under direct light, a coin might look ordinary. Tilt it slightly, and hidden lines appear. Doubling that was invisible before suddenly reveals itself. Luster breaks differently across the surface. Shadows highlight raised areas that should not be raised. A 1992 penny examined this way becomes a landscape of peaks and valleys, each telling a story about how the coin was struck. Then there is the question of strike quality. Some coins are weakly struck, with soft details and flattened areas. Others are struck with exceptional force, bringing out details that seem almost sculptural. An unusually strong strike on a 1992 penny can elevate its desirability, especially when combined with pristine condition. Strong strikes suggest fresh dies and optimal minting conditions, and collectors prize these characteristics highly. The conversation around value grows more complex here. Not every unusual coin is valuable. Some anomalies are simply damage caused after the coin left the mint. Scratches, dents, corrosion, and heat exposure can all mimic mint errors to the inexperienced eye. This is why education is essential. Knowing the difference between a true mint error and post-mint damage is one of the hardest lessons for new collectors to learn. But it is also one of the most important. As knowledge deepens, so does respect for authentication. When a collector believes they may have found something special among 1992 pennies, the next step is often professional evaluation. This is where the coin leaves the kitchen table and enters a controlled environment, examined by experts who have seen millions of coins. These experts do not rely on excitement. They rely on microscopes, scales, and decades of experience. The wait during this process can feel endless. Days turn into weeks as the coin is graded, labeled, and sealed in a protective holder. When it finally returns, the verdict carries weight. A confirmation can validate years of searching. A rejection can be disappointing, but even that brings clarity. Either way, the coin story becomes more defined. What keeps the 1992 penny especially compelling is that it remains accessible. Unlike ancient coins locked behind glass or ultra-rare pieces held in private vaults, 1992 pennies still circulate. They still appear in bankrolls. They still hide in drawers and jars. This accessibility keeps hope alive. Anyone, anywhere, could theoretically stumble upon something extraordinary. The market responds to this accessibility with constant motion. Prices rise and fall based on new discoveries, auction results, and collector interest. A single high-profile sale can reignite attention overnight. Forums light up. Videos are posted. People rush to search their change again. The ripple effect spreads quickly, reminding everyone that the story is still unfolding. There is also a cultural element at play. Pennies are emotional objects. They are often associated with childhood, with saving, with luck. Finding a penny heads up is said to bring good fortune. In that sense, the 1992 penny carries both monetary and symbolic value. It becomes a bridge between superstition and science, between hope and evidence. As more people enter the hobby, the collective knowledge grows. What was once speculation becomes documented. What was once rumor becomes either confirmed or dismissed. This process refines the narrative around the 1992 1-cent coin. It strips away exaggeration while strengthening legitimate areas of interest. And yet, even as clarity improves, mystery remains. That mystery is essential. Without it, the hunt would lose its magic. The possibility that something undiscovered still exists is what keeps collectors awake at night, what keeps magnifiers on desks, and what keeps pennies from being ignored. The 1992 penny embodies that possibility more than most modern coins, and as the story continues to unfold, one truth becomes undeniable: the value of this coin is not measured only in dollars. It is measured in time spent searching, knowledge gained, and the quiet thrill of wondering whether the next coin you turn over might change everything. By the time the search reaches this stage, the collector's mindset has changed completely. What once felt like casual curiosity becomes a disciplined routine. Every penny dated 1992 is no longer just another coin, but a candidate, a possibility, a silent question waiting to be answered. The hands slow down. The eyes sharpen. The mind learns to filter noise from meaning. This transformation is one of the most powerful yet least discussed aspects of coin collecting, and the 1992 1-cent plays a central role in it. Collectors begin to develop patterns. They know which areas of the coin to check first. The date. The mint mark. The motto. The reverse design. Over time, this process becomes almost automatic, yet never careless. Because experience teaches that rarity often hides where people least expect it. A slightly thicker letter. A faint secondary outline. A subtle change in texture. These are not dramatic flaws, they are whispers, and only patience allows them to be heard. The discussion around preservation becomes unavoidable. Coins that survive decades without heavy wear are exceptions, not the rule. Every 1992 penny that remains sharp and lustrous has beaten the odds. It avoided rough handling. It avoided harsh environments. It avoided cleaning, which can permanently destroy value. Cleaning is one of the most common mistakes made by beginners, and one of the most tragic. A clean coin may look shiny, but to experts, it screams damage. Original surfaces are sacred in numismatics, and the 1992 penny is no exception. Color plays an enormous role in evaluating these coins. Copper-plated zinc cents can appear red, red-brown, or brown, depending on how much original luster remains. Full red examples are highly desirable, especially in higher grades. The presence of original mint red color on a 1992 penny suggests it has been carefully preserved since the day it was struck. Such coins stand out immediately under proper lighting. The conversation also shifts toward population. How many examples exist in top condition? How many have been graded at the highest levels? Population reports from grading services become essential reading. They tell a story not just of survival, but of scarcity within condition. A coin might be common in general, yet rare in pristine condition. This paradox drives prices upward and keeps collectors focused on quality as much as rarity. Another layer of fascination comes from comparisons. Collectors compare 1992 pennies to those from adjacent years. Subtle differences emerge. Changes in die wear. Variations in strike strength. Shifts in luster quality. These comparisons help collectors understand the context in which the 1992 penny was produced. It becomes part of a timeline, not an isolated object. The historical backdrop of 1992 also adds emotional depth. This was a time of transition in the world. Technology was advancing rapidly. The Cold War had ended. The Internet was in its infancy. These broader changes subtly influenced manufacturing, including minting processes. Coins are artifacts of their time, and the 1992 penny carries the quiet imprint of an era on the edge of transformation. Within the collector community, conversations grow more refined. Early excitement gives way to informed debate. Claims are questioned. Evidence is demanded. This self-correcting nature of the hobby is one of its strengths. It ensures that only truly significant coins rise to the top. It also means that when something extraordinary is confirmed, its impact is undeniable. The idea of extreme value continues to hover in the background. Figures like $260 million are not discussed lightly. They represent the absolute ceiling of possibility, reserved for coins that would redefine what is known. A hypothetical 1992 penny with unprecedented characteristics would not just be rare, it would be unique. It would carry a story powerful enough to transcend the hobby itself. Such a coin would attract attention far beyond collectors. Historians, economists, and cultural commentators would weigh in. It would spark debates about value, scarcity, and human behavior. Why do we assign such worth to small objects? What does that say about us? In this way, the 1992 penny becomes a lens through which larger questions are explored, yet, even without reaching such extremes, the coin's importance remains intact. It serves as a reminder that value is not always obvious. That significance can be hidden in plain sight. That patience and knowledge can reveal truths that speed and assumption cannot. As the search continues, collectors often find that the coin has changed them as much as they have studied it. They become more observant, more careful, more appreciative of detail. The 1992 1-cent coin, humble and unassuming, becomes a teacher, and still, the story moves forward, deeper into nuance, deeper into possibility, with each penny turned and each detail examined. At this stage, the conversation around the 1992 1-cent coin becomes almost philosophical. The act of searching itself starts to matter as much as the result. Collectors often say that once you truly understand a coin, you no longer rush to find it, you allow it to reveal itself. Every roll opened, every coin flipped, becomes a quiet moment of focus, and the 1992 penny sits at the center of that calm intensity. Patterns begin to emerge over long periods of searching. Certain rolls seem untouched, their coins uniformly dull and worn, telling stories of long circulation. Others surprise the searcher with flashes of original luster, suggesting they were stored away for years before resurfacing. A bright 1992 penny among dull companions stands out immediately, almost like it is asking to be looked at more closely. The relationship between rarity and survival becomes clearer here. Millions of 1992 pennies were struck, but survival in collectible condition is a different story entirely. Environmental factors play a massive role. Humidity, heat, air quality, and storage conditions all leave their marks over time. A coin that spent decades in a dry, stable environment can look dramatically different from one that lived in a damp pocket or an open jar. This difference is not cosmetic, it directly impacts value. Collectors also begin to appreciate the importance of context. A coin does not exist alone, it exists as part of a collection, a set, or a narrative. A 1992 penny may gain additional appeal when paired with other high-grade Lincoln cents, especially those from the same era. Together, they tell a broader story about minting quality, economic conditions, and collector behavior during the early 1990s. The idea of error coins resurfaces again and again, because errors are unpredictable by nature. Unlike varieties that can be catalogued and anticipated, errors are accidents. They defy expectations. A misaligned strike, a clipped planchet, an off-center impression. Each error tells a story of a moment when the minting process deviated from perfection. In the context of a 1992 penny, such errors can transform a common coin into something deeply intriguing. However, the market treats errors with caution. Not all errors are equal. Minor errors may add novelty but little value. Major errors, especially those that are visually dramatic and well preserved, can command significant premiums. Authentication becomes even more critical here, because the line between error and damage can be thin. This is where expertise truly shines. As collectors grow more experienced, they begin to mentor others. Knowledge is shared. Mistakes are discussed openly. The community grows stronger. The 1992 penny becomes a teaching tool, a shared reference point through which collectors at different stages can connect. This communal aspect adds richness to the hobby that money alone cannot provide. The psychological pull of potential extreme value never fully disappears. Even seasoned collectors admit that the thought of uncovering something extraordinary lingers in the back of their minds. It is not greed, it is wonder. The idea that history might still hold a surprise is deeply human. The 1992 penny embodies that wonder perfectly. Stories circulate of people who almost missed something special, who nearly spent a coin that later turned out to be valuable. These stories are cautionary tales, reminders to slow down and pay attention. They reinforce the idea that every coin deserves respect, at least for a moment, before being dismissed. The longer one stays in the hobby, the more nuanced their understanding becomes. Value is no longer just about price tags. It is about rarity, condition, story, and connection. A 1992 penny that taught someone how to identify doubling or recognize original luster may be priceless to them, regardless of its market value. This deeper understanding changes how collectors talk about money. Figures like millions or hundreds of millions become abstract. What matters more is significance, impact, legacy. A coin that changes what is known, that challenges assumptions, that inspires others, that is where true value lies. As the journey continues, the 1992 1-cent coin remains quietly powerful. It does not demand attention. It invites it. And those who accept the invitation often find themselves enriched in ways they never expected, regardless of what the coin is ultimately worth. And with each passing search, each careful inspection, the story grows, layer by layer, still unfolding. With enough time, the search for the 1992 1-cent coin stops feeling like a hunt and starts feeling like a conversation. The coin speaks through patterns, through repetition, through the subtle lessons it teaches again and again. Collectors begin to notice how their instincts sharpen. What once required reference books and constant double-checking now happens almost subconsciously. The eye knows when something is right, and more importantly, when something is wrong. At this level, attention turns to microscopic details most people never imagine matter. The edges of the coin are examined closely. The rim height. The uniformity of the copper plating. Tiny bubbles or splits in the surface can hint at plating issues during production. These flaws, when confirmed as mint-related, can elevate interest dramatically. The 1992 penny, struck during a period of high output, is particularly susceptible to these subtle plating anomalies. Sound even becomes part of the evaluation. Experienced collectors sometimes gently drop coins onto a soft surface or tap them lightly together. The sound a coin makes can reveal clues about its composition. A zinc core penny has a slightly different tone compared to a solid bronze coin. While sound alone is never proof, it can be the first hint that further testing is warranted. These small rituals become second nature over time. The discussion of weight returns again, but now with more nuance. Slight deviations are expected due to wear, but larger deviations raise eyebrows. Digital scales accurate to hundredths of a gram become essential tools. A 1992 penny that consistently weighs outside the normal tolerance range invites deeper investigation. Each measurement is recorded, compared, and questioned. Nothing is assumed. As collectors mature, they also become more skeptical. Early excitement is tempered by experience. Not every unusual feature is rare. Not every difference is meaningful. This skepticism is healthy. It protects the integrity of the hobby. It ensures that when something truly remarkable appears, it stands on solid ground. The 1992 penny benefits from this scrutiny because it forces claims to be backed by evidence, not hype. The role of documentation becomes increasingly important. Photos are taken under different lighting conditions. Measurements are logged. Comparisons are made with verified examples. Over time, this documentation builds a personal archive of knowledge. For some collectors, these records become as valuable as the coins themselves. They represent years of learning and dedication. The market, meanwhile, continues its quiet evolution. Prices for high-grade examples fluctuate based on availability and demand. Interest spikes when new information surfaces, then settles again. This ebb and flow is natural. It reflects the living nature of the hobby. The 1992 penny rides these waves, sometimes drawing attention, sometimes slipping back into the background, never truly disappearing. There is also a growing appreciation for restraint. Experienced collectors learn that not every coin needs to be sold. Some are kept simply because they represent a milestone. The first high-grade 1992 penny found. The first confirmed variety identified. These coins become personal landmarks. Their value is emotional as much as financial. Conversations within the community grow deeper. Instead of asking how much is it worth, people ask what do you think caused this or have you seen something similar? These questions reflect maturity. They show a shift from outcome-focused thinking to process-focused understanding. The 1992 penny becomes a shared subject of study rather than just a potential jackpot. The idea of extreme valuation still exists, but it is now framed differently. Rather than being a promise, it is a possibility, a reminder of what rarity combined with significance can achieve. It no longer dominates the conversation. It simply lingers, quietly motivating careful attention. What stands out most at this stage is how the coin changes perception. Everyday objects feel different. Other coins are examined more closely. Details in the world become more noticeable. The habit of observation extends beyond numismatics. In this way, the 1992 1-cent coin leaves a lasting mark that has nothing to do with money, and still, the search continues. Not because it must, but because it has become part of who the collector is. Each 1992 penny encountered is greeted with calm curiosity, respect, and patience. The coin no longer needs to prove its worth. Its impact has already been made, and ahead, there is still more to uncover, more to reflect on, and more meaning to draw from this small, unassuming piece of history. By the time the journey reaches this depth, the 1992 1-cent coin has stopped being just a subject of study and has become a mirror. Collectors begin to see themselves reflected in the process, their patience, their doubts, their persistence. Each coin examined carries not only the marks of its own history, but traces of the hours spent learning, questioning, and refining judgment. The penny becomes a quiet companion in that growth. There is a moment many collectors experience when they realize they are no longer searching for validation. They do not need every coin to be special. They are comfortable with the idea that most 1992 pennies will be ordinary. This acceptance brings freedom. It allows the truly unusual pieces to stand out naturally, without being forced into significance. In this calm state, discovery feels more genuine, less rushed. The act of comparison deepens further. Coins are no longer compared only to reference images, but to memories. The collector remembers how a true doubled feature looks under magnification. They remember the feel of a sharp strike, the glow of untouched luster. These internal references become just as important as books or guides. The 1992 penny, examined again and again, helps build this internal library. Attention also turns to long-term preservation. Coins that once sat loosely in trays are now carefully housed in protective holders. Temperature and humidity are considered. Storage is no longer an afterthought. It is part of respect. The understanding grows that coins are temporary stewards in our care, passing from one generation to the next. The 1992 penny, though modern, is part of that chain. The market perspective matures alongside this respect. Collectors learn to separate noise from signal. Online rumors, exaggerated claims, and sensational headlines are weighed carefully. Evidence is valued over excitement. This discipline protects both the individual and the hobby as a whole. When something real emerges, it is recognized for what it is, not inflated beyond reason. The idea of legacy becomes more prominent. Some collectors begin to think about what their collections will mean in the future. Will these coins inspire curiosity? Will they teach attention to detail? Will they tell stories about an era? A well-preserved 1992 penny, accompanied by notes and documentation, becomes more than metal. It becomes a lesson waiting to be passed on. At this stage, the notion of extreme monetary value feels distant, almost secondary. Not irrelevant, but no longer central. The possibility of a coin reaching extraordinary value remains a fascinating thought experiment, but it does not define the experience. What defines it is engagement. Connection. Understanding. The 1992 1-cent coin continues to quietly challenge assumptions. It asks a simple question: how much meaning can be found in something small? Each collector answers that question differently, but the asking itself is what matters. It encourages humility. It encourages focus. It encourages respect for process over outcome. Even disappointment takes on a different tone. When a promising coin turns out to be ordinary, it is not a failure. It is confirmation. Another piece of the puzzle falls into place. Knowledge grows incrementally, and that growth is satisfying in its own right. The 1992 penny teaches this lesson repeatedly. What remains constant is curiosity. It does not fade. It evolves. It becomes quieter, steadier, more resilient. The collector no longer rushes toward discovery. They walk alongside it, trusting that if something remarkable exists, patience will reveal it, and so, the story continues, not with urgency, but with confidence. The 1992 1-cent coin remains exactly what it has always been: simple, common, and full of potential, waiting for the right eyes to truly see it. At this point in the journey, the 1992 1-cent coin feels less like an object and more like a timeline compressed into metal. Every scratch, every untouched surface, every subtle imperfection represents time moving forward. Collectors begin to sense that they are not just studying coins, but witnessing how history leaves fingerprints on even the smallest things. The penny becomes proof that nothing passes through time unchanged. There is a quiet respect that develops for the sheer scale of production. In 1992, the mint struck pennies by the hundreds of millions, machines operating day and night, planchets flowing endlessly through presses. Within that massive flow, the idea that something unusual could slip through feels almost poetic. A tiny deviation in pressure. A die used just a little too long. A planchet that was never meant to be there. These moments are rare, but they are real, and they are what keep collectors looking closely. Collectors at this stage often revisit coins they examined years earlier. With new knowledge, old coins reveal new details. A feature once dismissed as insignificant suddenly stands out. This re-examination is powerful, because it shows how understanding evolves. The 1992 penny does not change, but the observer does. That shift in perspective is one of the most rewarding aspects of the hobby. The role of storytelling becomes more important now. When collectors talk about their coins, they no longer list only facts. They tell stories. Where the coin was found. How long it took to notice a particular detail. What emotions were felt in the moment of discovery. These stories add layers of meaning that cannot be captured in a price guide. A 1992 penny with a personal story can feel priceless, regardless of market value. The broader numismatic world also continues to change. New collectors enter the hobby, often drawn in by the same promise that first sparked interest years earlier: the idea that something extraordinary could still be out there. Experienced collectors become guides, offering perspective and caution. The 1992 penny serves as a common language between generations, bridging experience levels and backgrounds. The idea of rarity becomes more nuanced. It is no longer just about how many coins exist, but how many are recognized, documented, and understood. A coin can be rare in knowledge before it is rare in numbers. This distinction is subtle, but important. It reminds collectors that discovery is as much intellectual as it is physical. Market conversations reflect this maturity. Instead of chasing rumors, collectors analyze trends. They study auction histories. They watch how certain coins gain respect over time rather than spiking suddenly. The 1992 penny fits comfortably into this long-term view. Its significance is not rushed. It develops slowly, supported by careful observation and shared understanding. Emotion still plays a role, but it is balanced by patience. The thrill of finding something interesting is still there, but it no longer overwhelms judgment. This balance is the mark of experience. The collector can appreciate excitement without being controlled by it. The 1992 penny, once again, teaches by example. There is also an increasing awareness of stewardship. Coins are not just owned, they are cared for. They are protected so future eyes can study them. This responsibility adds weight to even the smallest cent. The 1992 penny becomes a reminder that value is preserved through care as much as through rarity. As time goes on, collectors realize that the journey itself is finite. Hands will eventually pass these coins on. Knowledge will be inherited or lost depending on how it is shared. This realization brings urgency of a different kind, not to find something fast, but to understand it deeply and preserve that understanding. And so, the 1992 1-cent coin continues its quiet work. It teaches patience. It teaches observation. It teaches respect for the overlooked. It remains a small piece of metal with an outsized ability to shape the way people see the world, still holding space for mystery, still inviting careful attention, still unfolding its meaning one thoughtful moment at a time. As the story reaches this stage, the 1992 1-cent coin feels almost timeless. It exists in the past, the present, and the future all at once. Collectors realize that while the coin itself does not change, the meaning attached to it is constantly evolving. What was once just another year in a long series becomes a reference point, a marker of growth in understanding and appreciation. There is a sense of calm confidence now. The frantic energy of early searching has faded, replaced by trust in experience. Collectors no longer feel pressure to find something extraordinary every time they look at a 1992 penny. They understand that rarity reveals itself slowly, often when least expected. This patience transforms the entire experience into something almost meditative, and memory plays a powerful role here. The mind recalls countless coins examined, countless details noted. Patterns become clearer. Certain features stand out immediately because they have been seen before, studied before, understood before. The 1992 penny becomes part of a mental archive, a familiar chapter that can always be revisited with fresh insight. The concept of worth also matures further. Monetary value becomes just one layer among many. Historical context, condition, rarity of knowledge, and personal connection all weave together. A single cent becomes a vessel carrying all these layers at once. The 1992 penny proves that value is rarely simple, and almost never obvious. Collectors also become more reflective about the myths surrounding extreme prices. Numbers like hundreds of millions of dollars are no longer taken literally. Instead, they are understood as symbols of possibility, reminders of how far value can stretch when rarity, story, and demand align perfectly. These figures inspire imagination rather than expectation. They keep curiosity alive without distorting reality. The conversation around authenticity grows even stronger. Trust becomes central. Trust in grading standards. Trust in documentation. Trust in shared knowledge. The hobby thrives on this trust, and the 1992 penny benefits from it. Each confirmed fact strengthens the foundation upon which future discoveries can stand. There is also a renewed appreciation for the ordinary. After examining thousands of coins, collectors begin to see beauty in consistency. A well-struck, well-preserved 1992 penny that is completely normal can still be satisfying. It represents quality, care, and survival. Not every coin needs to be rare to be respected. The act of teaching becomes more intentional. Experienced collectors explain not just what to look for, but how to look. They emphasize patience over speed, understanding over assumption. The 1992 penny often becomes the example used to illustrate these lessons because it is familiar, accessible, and rich with learning potential. Time itself becomes part of the equation. As years pass, the number of untouched 1992 pennies naturally declines. Attrition continues quietly. Coins are lost, damaged, melted, or simply forgotten. This slow reduction adds weight to preservation efforts. What exists today may not exist tomorrow in the same condition. In this way, the future begins to matter more. Collectors think not just about what the 1992 penny means now, but what it might represent decades from now. How will it be viewed? What stories will be told about it? What discoveries might still be made? These questions do not demand answers. They invite contemplation, and so the narrative settles into a steady rhythm. The 1992 1-cent coin stands as a quiet constant, anchoring curiosity, reflection, and discipline. It does not shout. It does not promise. It simply exists, waiting to be understood, offering meaning to those willing to slow down and truly pay attention. The historical context of the 1962 penny adds depth to its appeal, situating it within a transformative period in American history. The early 1960s were marked by social change, economic growth, and technological advancement. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, had by 1962 become an everyday staple of American commerce. Yet even ordinary circulation coins like the 1962 penny carry a rich story of craftsmanship, design, and production processes. Denver Mint coins from this year were struck using improved quality control techniques, resulting in sharper details, consistent strikes, and fewer production flaws compared to earlier decades. The minting process itself, involving the careful preparation of planchets, precision die engraving, and high-speed presses, reflects a blend of industrial efficiency and artistry. Each 1962D penny is thus a product of a historically significant minting operation, capturing both technical achievement and cultural heritage. Rare discovery stories continue to enhance the coin's mystique. Collectors frequently report finding high-grade 1962D pennies in unexpected places: old coin jars, family collections, or even pocket change. One notable example involved a retired schoolteacher who discovered a near-perfect 1962D MS-66 penny tucked inside a dusty envelope containing coins from the 1960s. After authentication and professional grading, the coin became a centerpiece of a broader Lincoln Cent collection and later sold at auction for several $1,000s. Stories like this highlight the unpredictability and excitement inherent in collecting, where ordinary coins can transform into extraordinary finds with historical and financial significance. Such anecdotes inspire both novice and experienced collectors, illustrating that careful observation, patience, and knowledge can yield exceptional rewards. The international collector market has grown increasingly important for the 1962D penny. As global interest in U.S. numismatics has expanded, collectors from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East actively seek high-grade examples and rare varieties. International auctions, online marketplaces, and professional grading services provide access to coins that might previously have been limited to domestic collectors. This worldwide participation increases competition for top specimens, particularly error coins and uncirculated pennies with exceptional toning. The global market also contributes to price stability and long-term appreciation, as demand is not solely dependent on domestic interest. Coins with exceptional provenance, unique die varieties, or visually stunning toning often attract international attention, highlighting the 1962D penny's status as both a national treasure and a collectible of global significance. Future valuations of 1962D pennies are closely tied to trends in collector behavior, rarity, and preservation. While standard circulated coins will likely remain modest in value, high-grade uncirculated specimens and rare error coins are expected to continue appreciating over time. Professional grading, documentation of provenance, and careful preservation practices further enhance long-term potential. Speculative scenarios suggest that a comprehensive collection of 1962D pennies, including top-tier error coins and premium uncirculated examples, could reach cumulative values in the millions under optimal market conditions. Even single coins with exceptional characteristics have the potential to sell for extraordinary prices at auction. Collectors and investors who combine careful research, disciplined acquisition, and proper preservation are best positioned to realize these potential gains, ensuring that the 1962D penny remains a rewarding asset for both historical and financial reasons. In conclusion, the 1962D penny represents a unique intersection of history, artistry, and market value. Its journey from circulation to collector's item reflects decades of American culture, industrial craftsmanship, and numismatic interest. From the intricacies of die variations and minting errors to the allure of toning and strike quality, each 1962D penny carries both tangible and intangible value. High-grade specimens and rare error coins provide substantial investment opportunities, while circulated coins connect collectors to the everyday experiences of mid-20th century America. International demand, auction records, and historical significance all contribute to the coin's enduring appeal, ensuring that the 1962D penny will continue to captivate enthusiasts, investors, and historians alike. For collectors seeking beauty, history, and financial potential, this small copper coin represents a tangible link to the past and a promising asset for the future, encapsulating more than a century of American numismatic achievement. The legacy of the 1962D penny is further reinforced by its continued presence in private collections, educational programs, and numismatic literature. Whether serving as an object of study, a centerpiece for a collection, or a long-term investment, the coin embodies the enduring fascination with Lincoln cents and the broader history of U.S. coinage. For collectors, it offers a lifelong journey of discovery, from identifying subtle die variations to appreciating the artistry of its design. For investors, it provides a tangible, finite asset with proven historical appreciation and potential for significant future value. Ultimately, the 1962D penny is more than just a 1-cent coin. It is a symbol of American heritage, craftsmanship, and the enduring passion of collectors who recognize its beauty, rarity, and significance. White heavy checkmark. This concludes part 10 and completes your full-length, ultra-detailed 1962D penny YouTube script. The script now includes coin specifications, weight, design, and mint mark, historical context in Denver Mint, production error, coin types and die variations, grading nuances, toning, and Preservation collector anecdotes, notable discoveries, and famous auctions, international market trends and speculative valuations, investment strategies and long-term appreciation potential, educational and cultural significance.